I'm Christian Evren Lozañes. I'm a multimedia visual artist based. I always think na ang mga good na mga works is in photography. Siya. I'm lucky enough to start photography with a film camera. Actually, that's one of my proudest things, man. Na I was never a digital photographer first. So I learned how to shoot with an AE1 Canon, and at the time when digital cameras were not yet a thing, lomography was already there. So like when it comes to visual arts, kung sa paintings, lomography is like the abstract or the impressionist or the surrealist approach to photography. And well, ang context of lomography is sort of like experimenting with film. And we learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about it with some of the old film guys. How to deal with film photographs, how to shoot with specific types of films, and then how to experiment with it. So when we actually started lomography 2008, 2009, I think was like ang peak of the lomography community, especially in the Philippines. So there's Lomo Manila, and then the Karen, she was my classmate from engineering in CPU. She was like one of the key people in Lomo Manila, and then she decided to organize Lomo Iloilo, and then again became instantly a part of it, a part of the main community. Now we still maintain until now. Well, the only thing about lomography is that, specific cameras, specific films, and specific approaches to developing the film. And you experiment a lot. So lain-lain siya, and sometimes there's that surprise me factor compared to digital na when you shoot, you could see it right away. With lomography, you don't know what you get until you develop it and until you print it. Because you cannot only see the photo sa negative mo. You will basically just see the photo when it's already printed. So that's the thing. That's why I always still consider lomography as an art form in itself. Because there's a process. There's a process from shooting, from selecting the proper camera, proper film, proper developing. There's a process on it, and then the effect is like if you know what you're doing, you'll get a certain effect. Pero there's also that I don't care about it, just shoot. That's why sometimes we have this thing sa Lomo where it's like, don't think, just shoot. Well, actually, when I started shooting, when I started coding the camera, I always had this vague or ignorant perspective on street photography. You always think that you just go out in the street and just shoot, and anything about it is basically street photography. Pero I learned on street photography while I was already in Europe because it gave me a different perspective. While shooting in Rome, in the streets of Rome, it gave me a different, and it became more of a storytelling. So for me, although street photography may context siya na lain, pero may storytelling siya gapon. And that is what I learned to harness while I was there. Then I got involved with the communities, and I went into technicals because there's a lot of things to learn when it comes to street photography. There's a lot of ways to attack or to tackle street photography that most people don't even know. And then parang naging specific niche siya for other people. Na ang setup was it became a bit technical, pero sometimes some photographers will think na doka elite siya ngampang because it is technical, it is and we became more trained to discern certain things specific when it comes to our shots in street photography. Unlike before na I just go around with the camera and shoot. Subong now it's like when I go out to do street, I judge things more I observe things more and look at it in a way na is this worthy of a stick photo or not? Like before na, okay, who cares? Subong niya is like, it has to meet a certain standard in my eyes for me to consider it a stick photograph. I started the photography because I wanted to document my artworks. It started from there because I already know and I already understand that I need to document it. And from there, especially when I did my first exhibits and I documented my own paintings for archiving, the other members of like sa first group show ko, I have ended up documenting everything, all the paintings sa mga upod ko in the group show, and at the same time I documented the opening of the exhibit itself. So I always made it a habit to document my own shows for archiving purposes. But it turned out na because at that time when it was still IVAA, Iloilo Visual Arts Association, there's only a few people who document, and I ended up attending all these exhibits, and I was there. I was like this kid, fresh college graduate with a new DSLR, and I was like trying to find excuses and ways to use my camera. So I just decided to document. So when they needed somebody to photograph their paintings for the purpose of submission for all the art awards, contests there is, so they always go to me and tell me to, hey, can you shoot our paintings? And then some like habit in a sense to expect me to shoot for the art scene. Because being in Italy, we have a studio there for the weddings, we travel around. So I got involved with architectural, travel photography, landscape photography. So it broadened my horizon in a sense. And then shooting in Europe compared to shooting in the Philippines, there's a big difference, especially with lighting. Light niya, ang sky, there's a different lighting in a sense. So you get to see things in a different light in a sense. I got involved with the urban art culture. Urban toys, vinyl toys, and then most of the guys that work on urban toys are actually part of the arts, of the street art scene. And Europe, especially Milan and Rome, my God, it's everywhere. There's a lot of murals, there's a lot of graffiti. Like street art is a different form of expression, and you have a different audience compared to having your art inside a gallery or a museum. You have a different audience, so sometimes you have to also consider who is your audience in terms of street art. And then sometimes actually street art is the best way to send a message in a sense. So I always believe na may purpose siya when you do street art more, and parang community holistic ang perspective mo when you do street art compared to when you just do artworks for the purpose of exhibition in galleries. Well, my first major advocacy, I guess, is before, it's always gonna be local communities, empowering local communities. Like whether street art, tattoo, photography, painting, visual arts. It's all about empowering local communities na we have a platform to work on. We have a voice, and then we are heard in a sense. That's why I jump into the whole community and then I got myself involved with all these communities as well, because I wanted to help, because I have the tools, I have the capacity, and I understand a bit more than most of the other people in the community. I've been with Red Cross, 6 years in Red Cross as a volunteer. Then when I graduate, I work with Loob, which is another NGO. Then I transitioned to Rock Ed. With Rock Ed Philippines, so we use music as a means to channel our advocacy. So I organize the bands. Well, I'm lucky enough because I'm also part of the music community because I used to play in the band when I was in college. So, actually, apos lang siya because ang transition from Rock Ed to Dakila is almost easy because actually Dakila and Rock Ed is almost the same thing. It involves the same group of people. So, masapos lang. It was an easy transition. Dakila approach is more on multimedia. So, from film, same, but mostly on film and art. My first ever film prod was when I had my first camera na digital. It was actually it still involved volunteer work or community work because it was with Oscar Nava and we traveled around Panay documenting livelihoods from weaving to basket weaving to the textile weaving to pottery production, pottery, local industries. For most part, it was the same. It's like I started as like, oh, you're the behind the scenes guy. So I'm the BTS photographer. So I started shooting for BTS, from what you call this, like the press release, the press cons to the production, behind the scenes, and then a transition from there. Eventually, since you know how to hold the camera, eventually they will like ask you to man a camera. But I don't really see myself at that time as a prod person, since I only do the behind the scenes or the still photograph aspect of the production. Comic projects, wow. It started with college with me and Betch, Goldberg. And it started with me being the one in charge of doing stories. I like to do stories. Usually it involves him creating a character and me thinking about what is a good story for that character. And then we would brainstorm. And we eventually did N, ang Encantuanon, which actually I did a lot of research for that whole concept. And then eventually it ended up with being published as one of the first stories in the first local indie comics, indie manga project, the line art, and then he would pass it to me and I will do the ink. So I like the process, the production process of the comics as a team, as a studio more. So I love to collaborate with people. In a sense, I actually collaborated with a lot within the circle, within the group. So we started a lot of stories. We did the first chapters, the first few pages of the stories. Then we got distracted. And then the thing about me in comics is that I was already working on comics, and then I got distracted with photography. So when I saw that I could work more and I enjoy photography more, I let go of the comics aspect and concentrated myself in photography. Siguro, if I were gonna to advise my former self, my younger self, I should have worked more. I actually was privileged to have access to a lot of things way better than some of the guys. In a sense, siguro, pioneering, I'm not sure. Because I'm part of the group that actually started a lot of these things man eh. Like especially like sa comics, we're the ones who actually initiated, like especially like sa anime, sa otaku community, with the cosplay, we're the guys who started it. We're the guys who pushed the scene forward. The thing about visual arts in general is that you have to work. You have to do your pieces. You have to be confident about your work. If you're not confident about how you do things, it will affect everything else. So for me, I don't really I don't really see things that it has to be technical, it has to be have that or have that. As long as you're proud and confident about your work, that's the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, it's your own expression. You're not there to please everybody else. Your art should first be there to please yourself. Then bahala na sila if they would understand your work or not. That's my perspective. That's why my pieces or my works are usually sometimes not the conventional ones. And my subject as an artist, most people don't understand. But I don't really mind it. Like, this is how I do my art. This is my art. So usually I would always tell to people, be confident with your work. If you're comfortable with it, you're happy with it, then go for it. But if you're not comfortable and you are always conscious about what if they will not like it, what if they would hate it, something like that, then that's a big factor in itself. But for me, it's like you have to be confident. Like for me, I don't really aim to earn much when it comes to my art, but I'm happy, I'm confident, and I'm contented with how I do my art. And everything else is secondary.